Hi guys, welcome back to the Reptile Top 5 series. This is episode 3 and this week we're doing rear-fanged snakes. The proper name for a rear-fanged snake is Opisthoglyphus snakes. They have an enlarged fang towards the rear, not always in the rear, sometimes they're almost halfway up the mouth, which is an enlarged fang with a groove connected to a gland in the top of the head called a Devoynes gland, which is squeezed by musculature and makes a specialized saliva run down the groove into the cuts made by the enlarged teeth. This is their method of envenomation. As far as envenomation goes, it's not particularly efficient and usually requires the animals to chew. It goes without saying that anything that carries venom would therefore immediately fall into a minimum of the intermediate level or advanced level snakes, the only exception possibly being western hognoses, as they're so commonly kept. So without further ado, in at number 5, mangrove snake, Boiga dendrophila. And then there's a few different types out there as well. So there's Boiga dendrophila, Boiga dendrophila gemicincta, and there is another one that I can't, melanota, Boiga dendrophila melanota. These are a very large, impressive colubrid from Indonesia. They have quite a large range. They get about 7.5 to 8 feet long eventually. I've only ever seen one approaching that size, that was at Chester Zoo. Everything else I've ever seen has usually been around the 4.5 to 6 feet mark. They usually come in as imports and they're very difficult to acclimatise. I would place mangrove snakes potentially in an advanced series if they were imported. If you had a captive bred baby, maybe we could discuss them being in intermediate, but as imports they need to go in advanced. They come in with incredibly heavy parasitic burdens. They're not particularly easy to turn around. As far as beauty goes, it's very hard to beat a good mangrove. They are jet black and yellow banded, absolutely stunning snakes. Number 4, the ornate flying snake, Chrysopelea ornata. Now, people may well be surprised that I haven't picked the paradise flying snake, which is Chrysopelea paradisi. The truth be told is paradisi is far harder to keep in captivity. So I have kept both. The paradisi, yes, are incredibly attractive. They're also finicky feeders, lizard specialists and frog specialists that do not want to know anything to do with mice. So therefore I have to remove them from the list simply because I found them to be a pain in the arse. The ornates are still a stunning snake and they'll take fuzzies and small mice with relative ease. Now, when I say relative ease, that does not mean that they are a beginner snake. They are a full-on intermediate, probably higher intermediate level snake, but they are stunning and have marvellous colours and a manageable size at around 3 feet long, albeit very slender, but they make very good display snakes. In at number 3, bronze medal goes to a cousin of the mangrove snake, the green cat snake, Boiga cyanea. This thing is absolutely insane. 6 foot of emerald green tree snake. Now, where have we heard that before? Emeralds and green trees. Yes, absolutely. But the interesting thing is, when this snake is born, it is born with a rust orange body and a green head, and goes through an ontogenic colour change and turns solid green by the time it's around 18 months old. Now, these are, I wouldn't say readily, but can be found as captive bred specimens. And when they're found as captive bred specimens, they're relatively hardy. They'll feed, they might take a bit of coaxing as babies, but certainly as they get bigger, they move on to mammals and we have no issues feeding them. So certainly worthy of consideration for somebody looking to keep a rear-fanged snake and maybe challenge themselves. Number 2, silver medal. I've bred the species. I think it's a fabulous species. I wish there was more of them about. That is the Madagascan giant hognose, Leioheterodon madagascarensis. There's also, I think, the grey and the speckled, which I think are grey eye and modestus. They're not quite as attractive. For me, the golds, blacks, yellows and whites of a Madagascan giant hognose are absolutely amazing. These snakes are heavy set, roughly about 5 feet long, and just fabulous snakes to keep. They feed readily. If handled regularly, they can become very tame. They are willing to hood the same way that a falsie is, which is what I'm holding today, and yeah, because of the Madagascan origin, we're not talking about mega high humidity, so the actual day-to-day husbandry isn't too challenging, and definitely worthy of consideration. They're a definite intermediate level snake, but probably actually I think that, like, apart from this guy, one of the easiest to raise and get feeding and get going. So number 2, Madagascan giant hognose, Leioheterodon madagascarensis. So you'll probably notice this stunning female that I'm holding. This is a false water cobra, Hydrodynastes gigas. This is the Brazilian smooth snake. It occurs, as you just heard, from Brazil, South America. It likes cooler temperatures with a maximum of around 28 degrees. It's not so fussed about high humidity, but it likes a bath and a bathe so that it can have a soak, because it is a waterside snake. The issue we have is when we keep them too damp, they'll blister and develop all sorts of problems, and fungal infections are relatively common in the skin of these if kept too damp. So we'll just give her a large bowl and let her have a soak. As you can see, they maybe have earned themselves a bit of a reputation, which is a shame, because in actual fact, if you work with them regularly, they're as soft as brushes, and you can do anything with them. As babies, they hood more than adults, although when I first got this female out today, big hood came out, as if to say, what are you doing, what are you doing? When she realises, actually, oh, it's only him, he's come to handle me, it's fine. So don't be necessarily put off by the hood. It isn't necessarily a precursor to a strike, so don't panic too much about that. I've actually found that false water cobras are relatively reluctant to strike and to bite, and rely more on the defensive body posture of the hoods and flattening of the body than they do with actual outward aggression. They seem to breed readily. We've had this female, she's laid 2 litters of eggs this year. She's still obviously got good body weight. She's not a huge girl, she could potentially get bigger than she is, but absolutely stunning. Probably need a 5-foot viv. Definitely worthy of research. These are really growing in popularity. There's now the hypos, super hypos, there's lavenders, there's a load of different stuff out there, and people are really paying attention to the falsies. These are a fabulous snake. I cannot rave about them enough. Just look at her, she's stunning. Hydrodynastes gigas. So as a quick review, in at number 5, Mangrove Snake, Boiga, dendrophila. Number 4, Ornate flying snake, Chrysopelea ornata. Number 3, green cat snake or green cat-eyed snake, Boiga cyanea. In at number 2, Madagascar giant hognose, Leioheterodon madagascarensis. And the number 1 spot for best rear-fanged snake to keep in captivity, false water cobra, Hydrodynastes gigas, I think is the outright winner by a country mile. Stunning, laid back, easy to work with, excellent feeders. They grow quickly, you can get them in a range of colours. There's so many things that tick the boxes. What I will do is I will put together some slides at the end of this to show the 5 with the numbers, and then I will list the Latin names in the description of the video so that you can do your own research and look them up. None of these snakes are beginner snakes. None of these snakes should be considered by people who have not got at least probably 4 or 5 years experience keeping other snakes and experience the problems that can arise by keeping other snakes. The rear-fanged snakes are slightly more specialist, can be more difficult to acclimatise, can be more aggressive, so you have a list of things that will make them more difficult to keep. Do not try and be Billy Big Bollocks and keep stuff that you're not prepared for yet. Take your time, you'll get there. When you're ready, you can't go wrong with a falsie. They're ace. We'll keep them coming. See you again soon, guys. Cheers.